All right. Well, welcome to the last session of Wrestling Mindsets 2021 Coaches Clinic. If you have been here for every single session, in a moment, I'm going to throw my email into the chat box. Now, this is an honor system. If you email me and you tell me you've been here and you haven't, that's just shame on you. But if you've been on every single presentation live, even if you missed part of it because there was a little bit of overlap between presentations, shoot me an email. And I will follow up with you, and we'll make sure you get a little special prize for being with us for 31 presenters over 16 hours on 2 days. I can tell you, I feel like I just went through Christmas practices back at UPenn where we were doing 2 days kicking our butt.
Or you could start over again with all the information you have.
Exactly. So anyway, shoot me an email if you got that. Again, we are driving donations for Beat the Streets Wrestling. If you don't know, Beat the Streets is building inner city programs at the youth, the middle school, and the high school level. We've raised over $3,000. Joe DeSena helped push us over that number with a $1,000 donation today. So help us raise that up a little bit more. Help us build the sport in a place that traditionally hasn't had programming. We know what this sport does for individuals and for people. That's why we're here. If you want to support that mission in the inner city, go ahead and do that. Again, Jeff's going to jump on and throw some links to some of the books, right? The Predator Mindset from us. Do It Anyway by Jim Miller. Lee Kemp's book, Winning Gold. And then lastly, Chosen Suffering by Tom Ryan. For our last session, I wanted to bring somebody in that comes from my home state of Missouri. He's produced some of the best wrestlers that come out of the state. He's a great man. He's doing his best to build the youth and do it at a really, really high level. He's got a son that's wrestling at an incredible high level up at Iowa now. So Mike Eierman, you have a Eierman Elite Club. You've produced guys like Jaden Cox and Jaden Eierman and Brock Mahler that are now competing at really, really high levels. Mike's going to talk to us about mindset and training kids with a proper mindset. So Mike, without further ado, take us away.
Okay. Well, thanks everybody for being here. Thank you for having me. And I'm just going to talk about some of the mindsets at the youth level, at the younger level, when you're starting to develop into a high level wrestler and you want to, the screen just went blank. Is that all right?
Yep. It's all you, Mike.
Oh, okay. All right. So what I'm doing here in Missouri is I want these kids to come to my practice and they absolutely love what they're doing. They love practice. They love to get here a little bit earlier so we can work on some things, and we try to keep that passion the whole time. I don't run them into the ground. I don't come into practice and it's, an 8-year-old, my youth practices should not look like the University of Missouri practices. We should be in there studying technique at the younger level, enjoying what you're doing, taking chances in the practice room. I try to eliminate a lot of the pressure. And there's a lot of it at the youth level. I have parents that come into practices that are watching their kids. That adds pressure. I got kids that go to tournaments that look at brackets. That adds pressure. Looking up people that you're going to wrestle. That adds pressure. So I try to eliminate all those things, because they're kids and they have to enjoy what they're doing. Just a lot of stuff like that. Just trying to eliminate the pressure points. When they're in these high level matches, they're not just looking for the win or loss. They're just out there doing their thing, and that has to be developed. And it kind of stems from myself. When I was younger, I was in the state finals multiple times, lost every time. I remember I can run forever. I can lift weights. I can wrestle all day long in practice. But then when it came to a tournament, I was a nervous wreck. I was nervous before. And then I can wrestle at these tournaments, these kids that I knew I can beat or whatever, I was fine. But then when I got to the good kids, is when I would just go out there and be not even close to myself. So when I got into coaching, I wanted to eliminate that part of it, or at least develop it, see kids, everyone's going to have those issues, but how do you make them calm in those situations? How do you get to these high level matches and stay calm and stay, calm and control and confident? Because those are the 3 C's that we try to look for. All that has to be developed in the practice room. So, stuff like that is what I'm trying to do here in Missouri.
So Coach, obviously coaching guys like Jaden Cox who have been able to wrestle tremendously well at a high level. Give us a few of the the principles or the ideas that you really have worked hard to instill in guys like Jaden Cox or Jaden Eierman or Brock Mahler or just all the athletes that you're working with? What are some of the principles or beliefs that you have about the mental side of competing at wrestling that have helped you develop really strong athletes?
Once again, just going to tournaments, seeking out, but the main thing, the first thing was they have to learn how to lose. They have to learn and understand what losing is. And once you can do that, and once I see a wrestler is, okay, this kid understands how to take a loss, and he's not nervous about it, he's not scared from it, he's not running away from it, he's running towards those opportunities. And a lot of that was Jaden Eierman and Jaden Eierman when he was little. He'd come up to me 40 matches before and he'd be like, I'm up in 40, 40 matches. And I'm like, don't ever lose that. Don't ever lose that love for it. And so we had to work at it. And so we, and that, like I said, the things that we did were, we didn't look up brackets. That just adds pressure and there's no really reason for it. We don't study who we're wrestling. That has nothing to do with getting my kids ready mentally. All that just adds pressure. You know what I mean? So I just try to eliminate that. So we go to these tournaments and it's just them out there doing their thing. There's no nerves. You know what I mean? There's none of it. Because we learned at a young age how to control that. Because everybody knows that the mental side is a very important side to wrestling, but our practices are probably 99% physical. And so when a lot of these kids lose at tournaments, it's mental. So when we come back to the practice room, they're actually working on the opposite of what they should be doing because, he knows how to hit a high crotch. Why during that match did you not hit that or pull the trigger or whatever? That is when we got nervous. So that has to be attacked, approached, understood, worked on, developed every day. And now, with Jaden and Brock and all of these guys that I've trained or worked with, that is the main thing that they're doing very well is before their matches, they're walking out there believing in themselves, not worrying about who they're wrestling, not worrying about the win or loss factor. I'm just going to go out there and I'm going to lay it on the line and put everything I have out there. And if I fail, I'm going to go back and I'm going to figure out what I did right or what I did wrong. And I'm going to keep moving forward. I'm not going to stay in this terrified, and that's where I was. I'd go to tournaments, I would lose. We'd come back to practice on Monday, same exact practice. My room, the tournaments on Saturday speak to us. If I got a kid that's mentally showing signs of he's nervous and I could I'm going to talk to him. We're going to work on some things. If I see a kid that couldn't finish a shot, we're going to work on a finish to the shot. If I saw a kid that couldn't get off. So it's just wrestling speaks to us. I listen to it, and then we come back to the drawing board and we go to work. But this is where I think a lot of people aren't really, really tapping into it or really understanding it. Because I still see kids that are nervous wrecks before they wrestle. You can see it all over the place. And it's just, that is the main kryptonite to wrestling. We don't forget how to wrestle. And I call it the roller coaster ride wrestling, where you look great, you look like you don't even know what you're doing. You look great. And all I try to do with my guys is just a constant incline with some little dips, but not like, what was that? So, because I know we're not going to be at our best or perfect all the time. That's very understandable. But to let your mind get the best of you during these big matches when you really want to perform at your best, that is a problem. And so it needs to be developed. It needs to be understood. And then you need to keep moving forward. And so that's what we do here.
And that's great, Coach. I think recognizing that, and that's one of the things we talk a lot about is, what percentage of wrestling is mental. And typically, even at the highest level, you hear 90 to 95%, 90 to 99%, but the training doesn't necessarily match that. And when we do talk about, most coaches, I think, see the importance of some mental training, but I typically see it comes in two ways. It's either in teachable moments, they see something and they try to react to it, or they do like some sort of motivational speech at the very end of practice. Are there some tips you have for how coaches can more proactively look to develop that mental side on a more consistent basis? So you're not just waiting for something to go wrong, but trying to arm them just the same way that before you send a kid to a tournament, if you think somebody's going to ride legs, you teach them how to get out of the legs. You don't just let them get out there, get their butt kicked and then fix it.
Right.
You try to give them a little proactive help.
Yeah, I mean, and at the youth level, I'm talking about the youth, you know what I mean? Because as they get older, it progresses and things change. But at the youth level, I mean, no matter what, at tournaments, when I went with Jaden, we were there to learn and to take what we can. It was never about the winning and losing. Never. It was never, let's go win or let's go lose. It was just, let's go, let's enjoy ourselves. And they have to believe that I believe that. I'm not there. Like when they won, it wasn't, you won, that's just great. Or when you lost, it was bad. It was always consistent. I'm proud of you no matter what. You know what I mean? And so those types of things help a lot, because a lot of coaches and a lot of parents, they have a lot to do with their kids' mindset. And I don't know if they really know that. And I'm not trying to bash on anybody, but they really don't understand like the pressure that when they're applying at tournaments and you're going crazy in a corner or you're acting like it's that's a kid that feels that pressure. You know what I mean? And so once again, so I try when I'm at tournaments, I try to stay calm. I try to let them feed off of my energy because I'm not here in this little gym when you're 12 years old, hoping you win. I'm here hoping you take something with you. So when you're 23 or 25, and now you're looking to really make a statement, you have those skills. You know what I mean? You've applied the right mindset to your journey since you've been little. And so it takes a lot. It does. I mean, because you just can't walk up to somebody and go, boom, you're fixed. You know what I mean? Now you're never going to be nervous and you're going to love the sport. It doesn't work like that. And that's why wrestling is such a great sport because it takes a long time to develop these things. To become an artist, it takes a while. So just understanding the sport, understanding that we don't worry about the losses and the wins. We just care about the progression and that you're figuring things out. And then every time you wrestle, it's going to speak to me as a coach. And we're going to go back to the room and we're going to apply what it said to us. I'm not going to just go into the practice and it's the same practice it was every Saturday. On that Monday, that practice is going to be dictated towards what did I see good on Saturday? What did we see bad? And then we're going to jump after it. And so we're making steps. And the first people that know this are the actual wrestlers. You know what I'm saying? They know they're getting better. So that builds confidence. That builds excitement to get to practice. We don't run, we're not doing those types. Not to say that running's, is bad because my guys run all the time. They just run on their own time. They don't run during our hour and a half time of wrestling, so, and it just never putting pressure on these kids, you know what I mean? Remembering, and I, remember what it was, like I'm 48. So I remember what it was when I was younger. I remember the pressure. I don't want my little 8-year-olds feeling that, you know what I mean? So I tried to let them understand these things, on their own, develop your mind, develop this technique and just keep moving forward. So, but it takes a lot.
It does. Yeah, it does. It takes time. And I think one of the big things, and we've heard several of the different presenters have talked about this, is the importance as a leader and being able to understand when you've made a mistake and learn from it. Some things that were utilized when I think we were athletes, turns out weren't very effective. Some of the things that we've done as coaches sometimes aren't very effective. And you have to recognize that at the end of the day, it's like when a kid makes a mistake technically. It doesn't mean that his technique's bad. It just needs improvement. And if we look at ourselves as coaching the same way, it gives us that ability to I'm not going to be hurt or it's not going to hurt my ego if I change my strategy as a coach. It's just me developing myself the way that we are looking to develop athletes. And that's just listening. And again, that's why this kind of stuff is so impactful, is just get to hear a lot of leaders in the sport talk about how they do things, what their strategies are, what they find effective or what they don't. And so, sometimes just not knowing what bad technique looks like, what do you think are some of the things that coaches or parents do without knowing that add pressure or make kids nervous, that, they think that it's effective, but it's really just not? What are some things that you have seen during your career?
Oh, I've seen it all. But what I would advise to parents is just step back a little bit. Let these kids and their coaches fall in love with the sport. You just be loving parents on and off the mat, no matter what. No matter how he wins or he loses. I call it, like tell some of the parents in my club, don't be the boogeyman / buddy. You're the boogeyman to your own kid if he loses, or if you're mad at him because he didn't do that, or you're his buddy if he did good. Don't be that guy. You know what I mean? Love them no matter what. Let me or us coaches, let us do our job. You know what I mean? Because that's why we're here. We've lived it. We've done it. You know, the only thing parents can do, and they don't, because they love their kids and they think that, you know, I mean, I get it. It's based off of love. It's not based off of anything else besides that. But it's sometimes you just need to step back and just realize, you know, because Jaden, they didn't have that. They didn't have their parents around. You know what I mean? Jaden Cox, his parents didn't come out to practice. So that's why I'm a big believer in these things. I mean, if they were and they ended up doing great, I'd be like, hey, no, it worked. You know, their parents were in the room every day on their kid. They weren't. The ones that are done wrestling right now. That became too much. The pressure, and then they get to a certain age where they're like, I'm done. You know what I mean? They never took ownership of their wrestling. They never did it for them. They were always doing it to please somebody else. That's kind of the routine I see a lot happening. You know,
yeah, I think we've all seen that, and you know, definitely is detrimental. And one of the ways I frame it to parents, because some parents really struggle with this concept, is it's really hard to push an athlete and then have to have that athlete sit down at the table and eat dinner with you. It's like
right.
they get that
right.
A coach automatically has to push kind of hard to make them uncomfortable, to push
right.
them to a new level. And then they got to sit down and try to eat dinner with that person and then, you know, make that not happen. And those emotions carry over, and it's difficult.
Right. For sure. And then, I mean, and also, you know, the car drives, you know what I mean? Like at my practice, you know what I mean? I'm sure, you know, if I can talk to those people, you know what I mean? Don't talk about wrestling. Why? That doesn't, it lets that kid or your wrestler realize this isn't really a big deal. You know what I mean? This isn't really important to my dad. And then, or my whoever, now I can really take ownership of this. You know what I mean? Because once a wrestler realizes that they're the driver, like my wrestlers in my room, I'm not the driver in here, they are. You know what I mean? I'm just in the passenger seat trying to guide them correctly. But a lot of other coaches, they're the driver, the parents are involved. And that's why, and those kids that come here, I call them kind of blocked in, you know, they're boxed in a little bit. Their mind is kind of closed off to any suggestion or any new technique because they're just trying to win to please, you know what I mean? They have a good practice. So the car drive home or whatever the case may be is good. You know, well, that's not how you're going to get better in wrestling. You're going to get better in wrestling because you're in there trying stuff. You love what you're doing. And that this is, you know, every day you can't wait to get to my room and you're running there to get to just get better. You know what I mean? And the parents are fueling that. That's the ideal package.
Yeah. And I often find that when you're trying to win for other people, eventually it develops and I'm trying to not lose, right? Rather than go out there for victory, you're just trying to avoid that pain and what that's going to cause, which, you know, typically doesn't create offensive wrestlers that are going after points. They get conservative, they slow down, they get defensive. And if we look at, you know, at least right now, especially most of the dominant wrestlers in the country, they score a lot of points. They got a lot of good offense.
Yeah. Right.
Talk to me a little bit about, you know, obviously guys like Jaden Eierman and Jaden Cox, they score in some ways that are untraditional. What are some ways that the mental training that you help them do you think develop that style and that technique to take risks, do new things, wrestle their own unique, unorthodox style, but that fits them so well and is very technical?
Well, we work on it. You know, I mean, we work on it every day. I put them in positions where I'm sure you understand, I've had every coach, everybody, that technique, and you know what I mean? They never try, they don't do anything. They're not, their practices are the same. So what I do in here is I put them in these situations when they're young. So when they do get into these positions that they're not comfortable with, they're comfortable. That's all we're doing. That's all I'm doing. We show that because confidence comes from knowledge in wrestling, I believe. I don't think that you're going to walk out there and be like, oh, I'm just so strong and big today. I think I know so much that's going to make me confident in what I'm about to do, you know? And so all that kind of is entangled together. You know what I mean? The more I put them in situations where, you know, was uncomfortable for them, the more I saw when we were going to tournaments, they were winging things. They were doing things and other coaches were like, I've never seen that before. And that's when I was like, that's what the answer I want. I wanted, because that's them tapping into things. That's them out there doing things that I've never seen. Jaden doing the things he does at nationals. I'm like, wow, it's the freedom to do it is what I'm impressed with. Is that you weren't nervous. You weren't like, oh my gosh, and freezing up and then scared to pull the trigger. You were always confident to wrestle through positions where other people would lose sight in that. You know what I mean? They haven't been on your training. They don't know these positions that well. They're not as comfortable here. The pressure's building up, and that's when my guys will get you, you know? So yeah, just going in the room and putting yourself in these positions that these other coaches don't, like, they're like, oh, splados don't work. The reason why nobody teaches it. Nobody's teaching a splato. You know what I mean? Because every time Jaden does it or any of my other guys, they're having success with it. It's just a lot of these youth club coaches, they really, they don't teach a lot of stuff, you know? And so what I do is I put them in unique situations every practice, you know? So everything in wrestling is comfortable. So when it does come time to, now you want to win, now you have, you're well educated in these positions where you should be fine, you know? And so we just keep moving.
And I love it. You know, I was trained the vast majority of my career in very traditional styles of wrestling, basics, you got a high C, you got a single leg,
right,
you got a headlock. And I had a lot of success with it, but I can remember certain tournaments where a move came out of nowhere and just totally threw me off to the point where I was in the match point wise, but mentally for the first time I was put in a spot that I just had no background in, and mentally it's very hard.
Very distracting. Right. Exactly. And that's the other angle of all that, is that mentally it destroys your opponent. I mean, imagine when Jaden Eierman's walking out there and the coaches are saying, watch when you get to his legs, or, you know what I mean? Just, it's all terrifying to the opponent. So not only is Jaden confident walking out there, I always tell him, these guys are terrified to wrestle you because you are the fear factor. You're a guy that can end it real quick. And that is terrifying to these kids. So another reason why to be good at these positions that are really uncomfortable for a lot of people is because when you pull those kids in there, they don't know what's happening. You know what I'm saying? And so, just a little different. You want to be a little unique. Everybody's unique. Tap into it. Tap into your own strengths.
I love it, Coach, and it's definitely good stuff. I experienced it myself, and not in good ways.
Right. Me too.
I'm going to throw out a couple of questions. If anybody wants a question for Coach Eierman, throw it in the Q&A function and I'll go ahead and feed it to him. First from Michael Robinson, how do you recognize that a kid's nervous before, and Michael says before a big match versus just getting warmed up? And I guess in my mind, the first correction I'd make is, Michael, there are no big matches. There's just wrestling matches. If you build it up as big, right, you're automatically putting them in a bad spot. But Coach, how do you recognize the difference between somebody who's like overly nervous and maybe needs a little bit of adjustment from a coach versus, hey, he's good, he's warming up?
There are signs. There are signs. I mean, you should know your athletes. You know what I mean? You should know what, I can look at my kids. I can be across the gym and I can see how they're walking. So just walking out. But the thing is, it takes time. It's not going to happen overnight. You got to just walk up. You got to recognize, and then you got to just let them know it's not the end of the world if you lose. It just can't be about the winning loss. And there's just a lot, to this, how to develop it correctly. But they'll show signs, and if you pick up on it, you got to learn how to figure this out, how to make them to where the problems go away. Calmness is now entered, and now he's about to walk out there and put that ankle band on. You don't want them to walk out there frantic, nervous, pressure. I have to win. I don't want to lose. All that needs to go away. And I just need to walk out there and do my thing because I'm good at it. And I don't care about the winning and losing. And you have to develop that, though. That doesn't just happen, and so just recognize, and then each coach go to work, become a little scientist and put their little brains together.
Yeah, you got to figure out. I remember this was one year when I was coaching at Harrisonville with Eric Davini, but we had one kid, Jericho Harris, which if he got serious, he would wrestle terrible. So the whole time when he's at state, we're making him laugh and giggle and telling him his hair looks good. And then we got Ty Cochran, who you just wanted to get him so fired up.
Yeah.
He wasn't thinking about wrestling. He's just like, I'm going to tear this guy apart.
Right. I know those guys. Yeah, I remember them.
It's knowing the wrestlers and knowing how they function. I know with mindset training.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
I was saying with mindset training, one of the things we do, and Dave Schultz, this is one of the things he talked about was, have a couple things that you're focused on as you're wrestling that are performance based and not, outcome based. Like for Dave, he talked about, his mind, he's just trying to control pace and ties, right? He's on his feet. He's just trying to control pace and ties. That's right. Something that's controllable. It's simple. It's not complex. It's not like a win or loss, because then you start thinking too far ahead. For me, right. I've always said, I focused on scoring points, improving position, and trying to break my opponent. But finding those two or three things for your athlete that help them just function really well.
Yeah, that's great.
Next question is going to come from Zach Kimmer. He's one of our mindset coaches, one of my good buddies from UPenn. Building on the idea of parents stepping back to give their athletes space to enjoy the sport, what advice would you give for change the dynamics when a parent's for several years put too much pressure or kind of destroyed the fun aspect of wrestling? How do you think you would try to reset that after several years of a parent maybe not doing a good job with that?
To the parent or the wrestler?
Help the wrestler, I think, would be the big one.
No, I'm saying, like, is he going to talk to the parent, or are you talking to the wrestler? Because they both have to be,
I'd say give us both, because I think they probably both have to be dealt with, because that's two variables that need to be worked on.
Right. Well, I mean, I would definitely probably have a meeting, and bring them in and just kind of, let them know what, like, hey, it's not fun anymore for this kid. This has become for this young, whatever, this is a lot of pressure we're putting on them, that you're putting on them, that we're all, we need to just step back a little bit, And it's hard once you already have developed that, because everything's a habit. Now you got to change that habit. You got to bring it back. Because I think a lot of wrestlers, when they're younger, they do have love for. I have 3 new kids here that were here last week, coming with a smile every day. They love the practice room. They love coming in. Their parents are sitting out in the car and they're doing everything right. So I believe they start with that. But over time, that the pressure and just that grind, it starts to chip away. So I would have a meeting and just be like, look, this has to be changed. I want you to now, you have to fall in love with this. You have to love what you're doing. I'll step back because, I need to, and just, try to go at it like that. Have meetings, talk, educate them, let them know I'm not trying to be a jerk. This is just what we do for a living. I'm not trying to, I don't go to your line of work and try to tell you what to do. So this is a topic that we shouldn't even really be talking about. When I have my practice, there should be no issues. This is what I do for a living, so I try to get it early. That's why I don't like it when I wait a little bit and I see it and then I'm like, I should have addressed this earlier, because now this is going to take longer to fix. But yeah, it's something that needs to be addressed. Talk to them, bring them in, because then what happens is the kid thinks that that's what he should do. Now he thinks, no, I want to go every day, and it's like, that's not healthy though. That's the habit we created. You think that you need that. You're not improving ever. You're still making the same mistakes every tournament. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's nothing being developed. So, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's like the kid that learns a headlock a little too early, and all they want to do is throw, and it's like
right.
It's like, come on, man. Trust me.
Right.
Trust me, this isn't going to end well. I've seen it before. It's a common path for certain athletes.
Right.
Let's see here. Lee Furnace Jr. All right, Lee, I think we've talked a couple different times. Thanks for jumping on. As a father and a coach, is it a bad idea to keep your children from competition at a young age and just focus on technique and development?
If you're doing it right, no. If you're doing it correctly, go to tournaments at 5 years old if you're doing it right. If you're doing it correctly where it's not wrong, you're going to tournaments, the correct things are happening, we're leaving in the car and we're driving, go as early as you can. Go as early, but if you're going to do it wrong and you're going to push your kids, the younger the worse. Yeah, and that's why I think those are questions, because I think in wrestling, a 6 or 7 year old that just started and now he's on the grind going every Saturday and blah. Yeah, that'd be too much if it was, you have to win and what are you doing and all those type. But if you're going there, like going to the water park, like I've said that many of times, I've said it in different interviews where I want my kids to feel like that type of emotion, you know what I'm saying? Like they're going to a tournament should not be really high pressure, and all that stuff. So if you're doing it right, they should be enjoying it. They should want to go. They should want to go to tournaments, So I'm not saying, no, there's a certain age when they should start competing. No, if you're doing it correctly, get them in there and enjoy it, because it could be a really great journey, and it has been with my boys. So it can really be fun.
I agree. I got 3 brothers. We all wrestled growing up on a farm with no neighbors near us. Going to wrestling was awesome. We got to see other kids,
Right. Yeah.
I went to Penn. 2 of my younger brothers went to Navy. It provided a great opportunity for all of us to grow.
That's great. Yeah.
And like, if you use this sport correctly, it can really build your life, which is why those of us that are still involved, most of us are in it for the reason of developing young people. Well, Mike,
Right.
you know, we're going to do some closing remarks here in a moment, but, you know, one, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing. You've had a lot of success. You've built a lot of great men,
Thank you very,
which
thank you
at
very
the
much.
end of the day is probably one of the most important things we can do
For
here.
sure.
Tell me a little bit about what you got going on, and if people want to like get their kids to you, because obviously you're producing some wonderful wrestlers and people. You know, what are some ways that people either in Missouri or outside of the state could get training from Eierman Elite?
Well, I mean, I have a website and we're going all the time. You know, I'm the head coach of Eierman Elite Wrestling. My younger brother, Tony, is the head coach of Westminster College, which is 8 miles down the road. So, you know, I'm here, I'm in Missouri. I left for a little bit, but I'm back here. We're going 3 to 4 days a week here in Fulton, Missouri. I have a camp coming up in August. You know, so, and, you know, and I love it. I love it when I get kids that come out that are really bought in and they really love what they're doing. You know what I mean? And that's the part of the sport that really gets me, you know, when I see people doing it correctly and enjoying it, you know what I mean? So if you're those people and you want to really progress, you want your kid to understand the sport, not just understand it physically, but really understand it here. That's what we do here. That's what we push for, you know? So we have a website. It's Eierman Elite Wrestling, EIERMAN Elite Wrestling.
And we threw it in the chat. So if you want to go there, just click that. It makes it nice and easy.
Yeah. So, but yeah, there's videos and there's things about me and Jaden and all what I've done with Jaden Cox and Jaden Eierman when they were younger, you know, and then I also worked with Ben Askren at the University of Missouri. So I've also had, you know, working with high level 18-year-olds, you know what I mean, as opposed to developing, which is totally different. So, yeah.
Well, Mike, I appreciate all your thoughts. You know, for everybody that's here with us at the end, you know, we've gone through 16 hours. We had over I think we hit almost 1,700 registrants. Last I looked, we're just slightly over $3,000 raised for Wrestling Minds or for
That's great.
Wrestling. You know, the replays are going to be up till Sunday for free. If you missed a session, if you want to go back and watch or take notes, there's an immense amount of content that you can gain and learn and grow. I know as a coach, I've stolen and borrowed and learned and grown and read almost.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Right. Which I think every coach would say the same thing.
For sure.
All the guys that shared, all the women that shared, they did this because we want to see this sport grow. If we want wrestling to be here for the next generation, we have to be ambassadors and look to give value that is good and that is going to bring a great culture to the sport throughout our country. Very soon, we're going to get to see our Olympians go over and compete in Tokyo. Really exciting. I think the women's team is going to have a lot of success. I want to see those Greco guys get out there and get a bunch of medals. And we got a really exciting freestyle squad that I'm excited to see.
Yeah, for sure.
So, Mike, thank you for joining us. We also threw a survey in here. We'd love to get some feedback. We're going to do this next year. Every year, we want to make it bigger and better. So let us know how we can do that. WrestlingMindset.com if you want more information on our program. We're excited to be able to bring you guys great content and be able to help improve the mindset of so many young men and women across the country. So thank you for everyone that jumped on. Thank you, Mike, for sharing, and everybody have a great week.
Hey, thank you. Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me. Take care.
Yep.